And we are back. We are coming to you live from Dock Stadium in Jefferson. It's the Beyond the Arc Coaches Show. As always, I'm your host, Brandon Hurley with the Jefferson Herald, joined today by Greene County boys head coach Chris Nelson. And we've had a little bit of a hiatus, so let's just recap things a little bit. The Rams fell into a 3-game losing streak after starting the season 6-1, but have snapped back to life with consecutive wins over Sadell and Nevada in the past week. Greene County now sports an 8-4 overall record with a 7-2 record in the Heart of Iowa Conference, which keeps them comfortably in third place right now behind undefeated and top 10 ranked South Hamilton and 8-1 PCM. Before we dig into any further, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Tech Zone, an official Dish Network dealer, and of course Dock Stadium, home of the Carnivore, and which is created from the meat of our third sponsor, Moo Meat. Of course, we appreciate their support, and we couldn't do what we are right now. Greene County's last 2 victories have been key, as it kept the Rams kind of in the, gave them a sweep of Nevada and a season sweep of Sadell, got them back on the winning track, and kept place in the conference standings. It's also a kind of a testament of how the offense is really coming into shape. They've starting to share the ball more, and on Friday's game in Sadell, you guys had 20 assists, and so that was, I think, probably a season higher, at least close to it. And then on Tuesday, once Wade went into foul trouble in the third quarter, it was a 1-point game, and you guys could have kind of folded and kind of caved in, but you guys were able to kicked into that 2-3 zone and then kind of were able to pull away in the fourth quarter. So let's just start with Tuesday's game. What were you telling your guys when Wade went into foul trouble early in the third quarter, and how were you guys able to kind of pull that one out?
Well, first of all, I wasn't real thrilled with Wade because his fourth foul was more of a frustration foul than anything. And second, third, he had reasonable reason to be a little frustrated, but he can't let that happen, and Wade knows that. But we basically just we're going to have to get physical. We're going to have to play. We're going to go to our zone, which we call Wichita, and we're going to have to be physical. We got to make sure we rebound it because that's one of the big keys at a zone. And offensively, we got to make sure we spread them out and have them kind of come out and guard us and take advantage of trying to get in the gaps and get in the paint. And we did a good job with that. We moved the ball really well, and we had 19 assists on Tuesday night. So we're passing the ball well again, but just a nice win overall. I think it's maybe our best to this point of 4 quarters of basketball. We had a little bit of lulls here and there, but pretty minimal for what we've been up to. And like I said, I thought the kids they just really played hard. I think they just wanted a little bit more and outplayed them in that mid-third quarter into and the rest of the fourth quarter.
I know I talked to you on Tuesday a little bit, and you mentioned how the kids are finally buying into what you want to do offensively. So what do you think has been key into that, kind of sharing the ball and getting that offense finally going?
Well, we've just harped on it a ton. Like we really talked about how we got to just put kind of our pride away a little bit. We've got to. And we've talked about it numerous times. We have a lot of guys that can score, but we can't have everybody. Everybody can't score all at the same time, and we've got to move the ball. And if it's one guy's night, great. And if it's not, that's fine. There's other ways you can really make us effective and to take pride in what the other guys are doing well. I know if another guy's scoring really well, you got to be excited about it for him and our team. And I think our guys are starting to get there. But it helps when the ball goes in as well, but our movement's just much better. We've really worked a lot on that in practice, different movements, and going somewhere with the dribble. Like we want to, our getting the paint's never changed. We've just really have harped on it over the last about week, doing that.
So I know right before winter break you kind of lost to 2 3A teams, and then right after that you lost a really tough South Hamilton team. And I know that was a tough part of the schedule, but even then, falling into the 3-game losing streak, you guys were able to snap out of it, and now you've won 2 in a row. So what does just the kind of last 2 games say about the resiliency of your team?
Well, we got a team that likes to compete, and they're learning to compete in the right way now. I mean, we've always played hard and always, really try to get after, but we're really competing and wanting to really do the little things. I think that's the biggest thing right now. We still have plenty of things we've got to get better at, but we're working really hard at doing the little things. We had pretty much a bunch of checks that we had to cross off the list for Tuesday's game that I created, and we, there's 28 boxes we looked to check off, and we got the goals to at least get 24, and we got 25 of them, so that That's good because, in my opinion, if we can get 24 of them, we will have our chances to probably win games. And so we did a good job of that. But it just talks about just the things that maybe aren't as noticeable. A lot of the little, I call it dirty work things you got to do, and then just ball movement, defensive positioning, obviously rebounding and stuff. We didn't once on the board have anything about making shots or anything like that. So just a little bit of change of of the coaching part, what we kind of expect from them. But kids really play hard, and they know they're a good team. And I think they're starting to they know it, they believe it, and it's just a matter of doing it consistently throughout. And we did a pretty good job Friday with Sadell, and then obviously a better job even with Nevada on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think just from my perspective, looking at Tuesday game, I think that was just a big, almost a turning point in the season. Nevada was a team that kind of came in here last year and beat you guys, kind of derailing your conference title hopes. And so some of the guys, there's a lot of guys that are still on the team from last year. There had to be a little bit of something in their head. They're like, hey, we can't let Nevada do it again. So not only were you guys able to sweep Nevada, but it kind of kept you right there in the conference title race.
They did.
Again.
We had our chances last year to have a chance to be in that conference title hunt and that phrase, but they derailed us. And it was, Nevada made some nice plays, but it's just as much as us not making the plays. And we didn't really talk about that beforehand, but you could tell the kids that had played a lot last year knew it and didn't want to. And we've just, the only thing we really talked about, we've got a really important 8-game stretch coming up, leading into some postseason kind of stuff that we need to take care of. And if we do that, we still have our opportunities to be in that conference title hunt. Now, granted, we'll have to have some help come our way along the way, but if we can take care of our things and do our stuff, then then it's up to other teams maybe pull an upset here or there. But that regardless if we can win or tie for the conference title or not, if we take care of our things, it really builds us up well for tournament time.
Because speaking of that conference title hunt, you still have South Hamilton again on the schedule and PCM on the schedule. It's kind of a pretty top-heavy year this year in the conference. South Hamilton's undefeated, top 10 in the state, and PCM's right there at 8-1, and you guys are not even far behind at 7-2. So what do you think makes South Hamilton strong, and what does PCM strong? They're kind of two different teams a little bit.
South Hamilton, they're very well coached, and their kids are very confident, and they are just more consistent than we are through 4 quarters. We showed when we went up to their place that we can definitely play with them, and I think we can beat them. But they played 4 quarters, we played 3, and that's really the telltale of the story there. And we're getting better, and I think by the time we see them again, hopefully we're at that point where both teams are playing consistent for 4 quarters, and it comes down to maybe who makes a play or who doesn't hurt themselves. And PCM, a team that I think our guys really think we should have beat the first time. We had a halftime lead on them and didn't play real great offensively. Had a bunch of shots that just didn't go in, and they caught fire. So it's one of those games that it didn't work out for us. But PCM is another team that's well coached. They play a lot of guys, and their guys, they know their roles. Like, they don't make mistakes. They play their games, and that's what hurt us the first time against them. But we get to see both of them again, and we see them in the same week. So we'll really find out where we're at if we can take care of things up to that point.
Yeah, and you mentioned it a little bit. You had leads in both those games, and so you showed you can play with them, and you showed you can stay with them. And kind of the difference in the South Hamilton game was just maybe their point guard, Marco Barberis. He kind of took over there in that 4th quarter. He showed his poise. He showed that, hey, I've been here before. I took this team to the state tournament. So kind of that was the difference there, I think, in my personal.
Yeah, he's a very good guard, and he's a confident kid, and he runs their team really well. He's a true point guard in my opinion. He runs the team. He doesn't have to score to be effective. He gets them in their spots. The kids play really well along with them, and like I said, they a team that don't make many mistakes. And if we could have kept our first quarter play up through half and the 3rd quarter, then pressure's a little bit more on them, and we had to really fight and claw to get back into it, which we got to 3, but they made their free throws and some plays down the stretch, and that's just the way it is. But like I said, there's not a team in our conference that we can't go out and we can't beat. There's no doubt in my mind or our kids' minds, but we also really hit on it all the time that we don't show up, we can get beat. And we've got this 5-game stretch coming up where we got 5 on the road, and 3 of them are conference games against 3 conference teams that are below us, but they're teams that if you don't show up ready to play, they're going to beat us. So we got to make sure we're ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. Even with Sadell, a team that is winless in the conference, they looked like a team that wasn't winless. They have that Bobenhouse kid. He's pretty good. So, yeah, like you said, you have to come to play. Otherwise, you're going to lose. I mean, you may look at some of the records, and a lot of teams are under 500, but that's kind of not the case. Everybody pretty much plays you guys tough.
Yeah, I mean, and like I told our kids, if you want to be one of the better teams or the good team in the conference, you're going to see everybody's best effort. And I feel like we bring out the best in everybody right now because it seems like everybody plays pretty tough against us. But our kids have battled that issue, and we told them, we said, we have the capability, we can blow teams out, but it doesn't happen in one quarter. It doesn't happen in like 4 possessions. It's you grind through it, you do everything over and over and over through 4 quarters of play, and usually that's where those leads get built. And the good teams, you see the lopsided scores because they just do the right things over and over and over, and the team that maybe not as good will have their lapses, and that's where you can take advantage. And like I said, we've done 2 games in a row where we've done pretty well with that, but those are 2 games now in the past. We have to keep moving forward and keep being consistent for that 4 quarters.
Yeah, that 4 quarters thing is something that we've talked about a lot. What do you think happens to your team? And it's usually either in the second or third quarter. Why do you think you go through that lull that you guys can't score and let them come back in again?
I don't know. Because like I said, we always get off to a pretty good start. And I don't know if it's just maybe we're a little tired going in the second quarter, or we think something might change that they're going to do. It's just a focus thing and mental thing, probably more than anything. And then out of the third quarter, we had a couple of those early in the season. Third quarter, we didn't come over hot. We really harped on that and have done a much better job. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of halftime, especially if you're playing well, because you don't want to go in there. Now, if you're playing poorly, it's good for adjustments. But most people will notice we aren't in the locker room a real long time. But I like to get them to get out, get shots, and get their legs moving, and get back to going in a rhythm. But we make sure we hit what we need to hit on the head, and we go from there.
Yeah, basketball halftime seems pretty difficult. I mean, 10 minutes seems a long, but I mean, where do you go in between that? Do you go to 5? That's maybe too short. And so there's no really time. You can't go to 7.5 minutes. That's kind of weird.
Right.
So, yeah. But so speaking of guard play and South Hamilton's guard play, you've got a pretty good guard play on Tuesday night. Trey Hynell and Lance Hughes, they were both kind of feeding off each other, especially Trey. He had 25 points, 5 threes. His shots were looking effortlessly. And to me, it looks like he's become more patient in the last few games, kind of letting the game come to him.
He has. I mean, Trey and I have talked about that quite a few times. And just playing within our offense, I know it's tough sometimes when you know you can score and you've got opportunities, but it's not always about yourself. It's about the team. And guys want to get them looks, and we've got guys that can create. And he can also create for a lot of people as well. And he can do it with even out the ball, because when he's shooting well, teams take notice, and they're not going to let him touch it. But just by him moving, he can create shots on the block, in the paint for other guys, if they use him right. And but I thought he was really patient. He's not trying to force as much anymore, and he's stepping into his shots, getting in rhythm, which is big as a shooter. And he was moving. Like, there's been some games where he's had some slumps because he just doesn't move very well. And I don't know if he's just tired or. I can't believe he'd be out of shape because we ran quite a bit. But, then sometimes it does get frustrating as a shooter when you're getting hounded all the time, constantly. But Trey and I have had some good talks, and he's a very smart kid when it comes to basketball, and he's getting it figured out. And hopefully this is that point where he's got it going, and he knows, okay, this is what I got to do. And maybe if the shot's not going, doesn't mean I'm not going to quit shooting, but I can, affect the offense in other ways as well.
Yeah, and I mentioned Lance Hughes, too. He's a guy that, not always quietly, but usually you look at the scoreboard and he has 10 points at the end of the game. And he every game he'll show some flashes of he can really effortlessly take it to the hole. So what do you think makes his game so potent, and why do you think he's a key to your team?
Well, Lance is probably one of the best guys of getting to the lane with the ball. Him and Joe Towers are probably our best that can get to the lane. But when Lance plays again under control, keeps his emotions in check, and he just focuses on what he can do and not what other people are not doing and so forth. He is a really nice point guard, and he can create a lot of opportunities for others and himself by just running our offense and getting in the lane and stuff. And he did a good job of that. I think he had 8 assists, which is the season high for anybody this year. And that's something that I don't feel is a one-time thing. I mean, he can get 6 to 7, 8 assists. If we're moving as a team and he's looking, keeping his head up and being a creator and not just trying to be an offensive threat to score, but creating and reading the defense when he gets to late, and he was much better with that. He had some great passes. Even out of bounds, he had some nice passes. So it was good to see that. It's good to see him and Trey really playing well. They're good buddies, and it's kind of been odd that they haven't functioned as well together to this point, but we had a good talk as well. And they're both great kids that really want to do well at basketball, are competitive, and they really they work together and feed off each other. Those guys can help us in a lot of ways.
Yeah, you mentioned that passing. One of the passes that kind of stuck out to me was when they were on that fast break and he lobbed it to Carter Morton, and then he caught it all in one motion, laid it off the glass, and that not only ignited you guys in your bench, but it also ignited the crowd, and it kind of seemed like that was a turning point in that game.
It was. I mean, it was, like you said, Wade had just gone out, and it was fairly close, and it was tied, or we were ahead by a bucket or maybe, and then all of a sudden we had a nice little run there. And two other ones that really come to my mind is we got a steal and a fast break, and Lance attacked the hoop and had a great kick out to Trey, who ran the floor really well in the corner. And then the other big one I thought was on an out-of-bounds play when we ran, and Ben Brevard had a really great cut that Nevada had no idea it was an easy layup, and I think that was kind of the backbreaker there for Nevada. But, when we're moving and doing it all together as a five-man unit, we can get pretty tough to guard.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of those, I know I hate to harp on those lulls, but like as a coach, what kind of things do you try to get? Just like, I know it's frustrating you to watch them go through those lulls. So as a coach, philosophy-wise, what do you kind of try to construe to them, and how do you keep yourself cool?
Well, been in our games, I'm usually chewing bubble gum and walking the sideline, so that's one way I do it. But we just talked about our lulls come when we don't move the ball and we start standing. And there's been some times where we'll come down and it's one pass and a shot, or we don't even pass and we shoot it. And that's when a lot of teams make a little bit of a run on us, or they gather some momentum, and that's where we have to hopefully get some defensive stops and then realize, okay, we need to run some offense and make them work to, that can kill some of the momentum if you have to play defense for a little bit longer extended time. And so we continue to talk about that, and 8 kids are getting that and figuring it out. And like I said, we're just past the halfway point, and I think we're going in the right direction. And hopefully those lulls will continue to be less and less as we go through. Yeah,
so now we move forward. You mentioned it before, 4 games in 5 days, all on the road. You start with tomorrow night, Gilbert, and then Webster City, and then Monday night you have Winterset, a makeup game, and then on Tuesday you're at Roland Story. So just kind of, you've done the 4 games in 5 days, but you haven't necessarily done it all on the road. So what kind of challenge do you think this presents your guys, that you have to play so many road games in a short amount of time?
The nice thing is, one, we tend to play we might play better on the road, which is...
Yeah, that South Hamilton game,
seems a little odd, as you'd like to play at home, but that's good. I think our kids just like playing, and that's part of it. But another thing that will help is that we've done the 4 games in 5 days. Great. I think this 4-game stretch will be a little bit tougher teams, maybe, in my opinion. Not that the teams we played were poor by any means in the first stretch, but the road thing is going to be big. I mean, Gilbert's not an easy place to play at, and I think they think they can play with us and beat us, so we're going to have to come over there and be ready to go on their floor. And then Webster City, know just a little bit about them, a non-conference game, which I'm excited about, because it should have kind of a tournament feel with the triple header up there and on a Saturday. And then we'll really find out kind of where we're at after those 2, then run into Winterset, who's winning their conference right now and has got a very nice team. And then we come back with Roland Story, who's a team that's a scrappy team that I think when they're at home can play with anybody as well. So we have to just – I'm not necessarily concerned about each of those teams. I mean, we know about them and we know what they want to do in tendencies, but my biggest concern is us, and can we make sure that we do what we want to do for 4 quarters each game. If we do that with our ability and kind of our skills, we should fare pretty well in those games, but we got to make sure we continue to do the right things on a consistent basis.
So you mentioned those 2 non-conference teams, Webster City and Winterset, back-to-back. So what kind of things do you do to kind of prepare for them? Do you call other coaches that are in their conference to kind of get a feel for them, or how do you go about that process?
Try. I mean, you talk to coaches, you try to get film on them, and sometimes coaches are reluctant to give it up, and others will. And but on Huddle, you can find lots of different films or clips, and we played Winterset last year, and they have everybody back, so we can gauge a little bit of what they do from last year's film if we really need to. Obviously, they're better than they were last year, but so we at least recognize and know their personnel. Now, Webster City, a team that we've not seen, we watched them play in the tournament last year before us, and they lost a couple kids, but their main guys are back. So some memory stuff we know about, but again, I don't think any of those teams are going to throw anything at us that we have not seen this year. They may run maybe a few different wrinkles or maybe a little bit better than some teams. But, again, if we can take care of our things, and like I said, our kids think we're a good team, I think we're a good team, good teams make sure they take care of their things, and then we can make our adjustments as we go if we have to.
Yeah, Winterset, that was a game where you guys had a lead and then kind of things just fell apart in the second half here, and it was kind of just unraveled, and they kind of caught fire like other teams have.
Yeah, right now that's the big difference from this year's team and last year's team is we've won a few of those late games where it's come down to crunch time. Where last year, that's where we let some games go, not by we weren't trying, we just weren't able to make the right plays at the right time or knew what we needed to do exactly from a personnel standpoint. But this year we've had some games where we've won those games, and that's a good confident builder, and our defense is better than it was last year just because of progression of working on it more. And again, offensively, I think our kids that realize if we get stops defensively, we don't necessarily have to go and make an offensive play. We just have to make a good decision when we get on the offensive side. Last year I thought sometimes we thought, okay, if they score, we can still make an offensive play. Well, that's great, but if we don't stop them, we don't win. So I think that mindset's changed a little bit, and hopefully it continues. And hopefully it'd be great if we didn't have to play any nail biters, but I'm sure we're going to have a few here to go.
Yeah.
So,
do you think that's a case of them just getting comfortable with you as a coach, being that this is your second year, and a lot of those guys from last year are back? Do you think they're more comfortable with what you want to get done and how you want them to play?
I think so. I mean, each year gets a little bit easier that you have them, and the kids know the expectations. I think they knew them last year, but to what standpoint or how I want to end games, or the competitive side of me takes over. The kids kind of realize that, but just being able to have a second year and go over all and not have to review everything, we already know it and stuff, that definitely helps. And just learning a little bit more each time is definitely helpful for our kids.
Yeah, and you mentioned closing out games, just those two Nevada games this year, those stick out to me. In both games, you were able to kind of fend them off and kind of hold them at bay, as why you guys pulled that out. And so that's another reason why I think this past Nevada game was a big key to the season, because you showed that you had resilience, especially with Wade going on the bench and showing that other guys could do it.
I think that's the biggest thing. We haven't had a game really this year where Wade was in that foul trouble. He's been in a little bit of trouble in the first half. The second half, we never had that issue, and
that was kind of your downfall last year when he would go out.
We struggled because kids would play hard, but we didn't have the caliber of player to put down there. We just didn't have it. And Tuesday night was really nice that we could run a zone really effective, and our kids were physical with it. Like last year, we could run some zone, but we weren't as aggressive as I was or rebound as well. And we've harped on defense rebounding big time this year, just because, one, we just don't have the size besides Wade. And the kids, I think, took it as a challenge. They knew, okay, we got to make plays, and because it was against the biggest team in our conference, and to limit them some paint touches and frustrate them was nice. And it's never bad to beat Nevada. To sweep them, I guess, it was the first time we've swept them in Greene County basketball history in the last 6 years, whatever. I didn't know that till Doug Reeder told
I didn't
me.
know that. Yeah.
So, but we just did a good job of handling the situation pretty well. And like I said, I think the kids just made it a challenge themselves. Okay, we can still get this done, and they believe they can win, and that's a big part of the battle.
And even in your losses, you haven't really laid down. I mean, against Boone, you fell down quite a bit, and you came back. And then against South Hamilton, you lost that lead, but you still stuck with them and kind of played. And then against Perry, it was kind of just back and forth. And so, like I said, that resilience just keeps coming back and back, and you keep.
I think our kids know. I think they really believe they can win every game, and every game we go into, I think we can. But I just think when you start thinking that way and believing that you can win all your games, it's going to help. And we talk about it's not about if we're going to the mindset we'd really love to get to, and we're ways away. But I think some kids kind of have it as it's not if it's matter if we're going to win or lose. It's matter how much we're going to win by. And regardless if that's 1 or 2, like you always know in the back of your mind you're going to win. At least will keep us in our every ball game. And for the last year and a half, we've been in every game except for one, really, and that's just a whole other story. But anyway, our kids are they compete. They want to win badly, and when they start doing things that they're asked about and they do it the right way and play hard, we will have chances in every one of our games.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of having chances, one final thing here. I'd heard that the playoff parents might come out tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So do you have any theories of where you guys might go or where you think who you might play?
I tell you, Brandon, I every year tell myself I'm not going to look into it. And I'm not going to do this. And I'm a person that I love getting into that stuff and figuring stuff out. And every year I think I'm pretty close. I'm completely off by the association. But I'd have if I had to guess, I'd say we'd probably somehow be either same district or sub-state as Carroll Kemper, just because there's not a lot of teams in 2A that are west and southwest. So I have a feeling we can maybe go that direction, or maybe just have a few of the northern teams like South Central, Southeast Valley, maybe East Sac that join that. Or to me, the association say, well, they'll split right between and make Kemper go that way and maybe make us go east and south a little bit. And I don't know if that means we'd run into like a Van Meter, who's a very good team.
Very
but
good.
We'll just wait and see, and then we'll go from there. But we've got, like I said, we talked about an 8-game stretch where it's really, really important. We didn't talk about if we had to win all 8 or anything, but we've got to do really well, play hard, and compete in all those, and give ourselves chances, because that can be a big deterrent on seeding and all that stuff when it comes down to it.
Yeah, it'll be different because you guys dropped down to 2A this year, and so you won't have to compete with those big 3A schools, but 2A, like we covered at the beginning of the year, there's still a lot of tradition-rich programs that are really good. And I mean, Van Meter's one that's on the rise and probably won't be going away for a long time.
I doubt it. No.
And Kemper is Kemper. They have consistent history just all the way back. So anywhere you go, you'll probably run into a tough team.
We're to get the state, you're gonna have to beat some good teams. It's not like a cakewalk ever. Our goal going the season was to try to get a bye in the first round, you either get a 1 or 2 seed, and again, if we can take care of some of our things in these next game stretches, I'd like to think we'd have a chance for that, and hopefully nothing worse than a 3 seed if we're doing things right. But if we're not playing well, then it may not justify us to get one of those. But that's a good thing to shoot for. It's in the back of the kids' minds. We don't try to talk a lot about the tournament just because.
Yeah, there's so many
games left, and anything can change. And knock on wood, we don't have any injuries or get illness at the wrong time. But we just one game at a time. But we know we got to put games back to back to back to really get things going. And I think the kids are excited and confident about doing it.
Yeah, and I know. I'm excited too. And there's a lot of season left. So if you're a fan of basketball and fan of high school basketball, come out and watch some basketball. It'll be a fun month and a half left. So. Thanks to everyone for watching in today, and thanks to Chris for joining us. We'll see you again next week where I'll have Dean Lyons. So thanks a lot.